Hey y'all, I'm super excited today on this episode of Eating While I'm going to redo that. Welcome to another episode of Eating While Broke. Today we have the super financially lit Angel Rich with us. She's about to show us what she used to eat when she was broke.
Yes. Hey, everybody. I'm Angel Rich, also known as the next Steve Jobs. I'm super excited to be here on Eating While Broke. Can't wait to share all my broke stories and my broke food. But hey, you know, it started from the bottom and now we're here. So we're here on Eating While Broke and looking forward to it.
What do you have us eating today?
Today we are eating goulash.
Goulash.
Now, for those that don't know, this meal actually kind of came out of slavery in the South. This is a meal that people eat to this day, especially if you are in the South or if you are in a little bit more of an impoverished area or if you just are hungry. So growing up, I actually did not know that this was a struggle meal. Yeah. It was my favorite meal as a child. Okay. I didn't know how much my family was necessarily struggling for different meals, you know, eating mac and cheese and hot dogs and pork and beans and oodles and noodles and all those various different things. I just thought it was food. Yeah. And I didn't think anything of it. And when my grandmother used to make this meal, it used to feel like so special. I mean, look how many ingredients are in it. It feels like you're about to have a feast.
Yeah, and it's very colorful.
It's very colorful, and it actually tastes really good as well. And I'm looking forward to eating it. I haven't had it in a very long time, and it's an honor to make it with you.
Yes, so what are the ingredients you have?
Yes, so first we just start with some elbow macaroni. Then we have ground beef, some shredded cheese, stewed tomatoes, and plenty of ketchup.
Okay, yes. Perfect.
And then, of course, we're going to season to taste, salt and pepper, season all, and hot sauce.
Okay, awesome. So while you start cooking, I may be throwing some questions at you.
Okay.
So where are you originally from?
I am from D.C. I'm from Capitol Hill, and my great-grandparents are actually founding residents of Capitol Hill, and that was pretty cool. But by the time it got to the 90s, the neighborhood didn't have the same makeup as it had before. And the crack epidemic had sort of happened. And they started letting various different people in with housing vouchers and different things like that. So while I was going to school, me and my sister were the only two people in the entire school that had to pay for our lunch. Oh, wow. Everybody else in the school was on welfare. Yeah. And my mother, even though we had a lot of financial hurdles, she just always refused to get on welfare. So we still had to pay for our lunch. So everybody always assumed that we were these rich kids just because we could pay for our lunch, you know, not realizing that there would actually be times that we didn't have electricity or we didn't have gas or we didn't have water. We had normal struggles just like everyone else. But being in that position of sort of seeing the dichotomy and sort of mixed world at the same time of my neighborhood and my friends, it gave me a different perspective on life, and that's why I became so passionate about financial literacy.
Wow. So when did you decide to write History of the Black Dollar?
So I decided to write History of the Black Dollar when I was going through my own personal struggle. Okay. So I had became a global market research analyst, and while I was there and working at Prudential, I became the author of the first African-American financial experience study. The reason is Blacks in life insurance commercials. But I also had a vision.
Wait, the reason for what?
The reason that there's currently Blacks in life insurance commercials and financial services commercials. Yeah. I was able to prove that Blacks own life insurance at an equal or higher value than other races. Oh, wow. And nobody had ever researched that before.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, literally. Wow. Yeah. So that was crazy. And I, had all of that success, and I decided to start my company. But I was struggling to raise money because, as I'm sure you probably know, it's very hard for Black women to raise money. Mm-hmm. And we only receive 0.02% of funding. And with that, I was going through a really hard time, and it got so bad that I didn't have any electricity, and I was walking down the street picking up change off the ground to be able to feed myself.
Wow. This is while you were trying to get your company off the ground?
This is 2016.
Oh, wow. That's only a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've never shared this before.
Wow. I'm glad you're sharing it here with us.
I'm excited to share it with you.
So how far from that point did the article come out of Forbes saying that you were the next Steve Jobs? Because I remember seeing that, and I was like, it's a Black girl.
Literally like a month later.
Wow.
So fast forward to, I'm going through this hard period, 2016. I'm in this competition. I'm thinking I'm going to win, and I'm lined up for $1 million, and I lose. Wow. And, well, I didn't lose. I came in ninth. I came in ninth in the world. I mean, some people would consider that a big deal, but that didn't have the $1 million attached to it. So it might as well have been a loss. It might as well have been 100th place to me. So I go through that whole period, and then January of 2017, I don't have any electricity. And I get to the point where I just start reading all of these Black history books over and over again, just by candlelight, because that's my only source of entertainment. And I realized that there is.
And you're living by yourself at this point, or are you living with family?
I was actually with my ex at the time, and I actually was going through a bit of a domestic violence situation as well. And it was just a completely just bad time. Yeah. But I didn't have a job. I didn't have funding for the company. I had no way out. So my mentor, Dr. Maya Rockymore Cummings, who's the wife of Congressman Elijah Cummings, she was having a program for her organization, Center for Global Policy Solutions. And she allowed me to be able to launch the book there. About a few weeks right before that, Google also hosted a competition in New York for the top 30 Black women in the country. And I happened to win. And so the lady that was one of the judges was also a writer for Forbes. And she came over and she interviewed me, and she heard my story. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, you're vastly underrated. I'm going to do a story on you. And I didn't think anything of it. So fast forward, I have no electricity. I am washing my clothes in the bathtub. I am just, living the brokest of lives. You know, I got rats in my apartment, and we're having to burn them in the backyard. There's murders happening in my front yard. And it's just a whole insane situation going on. And it got to the point that I'm walking down the street, and I literally go up to a crackhead, and I ask him for some money.
Wow.
And he reaches in his pocket and gives me a handful of pennies. And then he say, if I see you later, I'll give you $1. And I say, thank you, sir. I'll be looking for you at that $1. Wow. And used to borrow 20 cents from the convenience store lady, and was so proud to pay her back her little 20 cents. So this is what I'm in the midst of. Okay.
Right before the article comes out.
Right before the article comes out.
That's crazy.
Okay. So I decide to get out of the domestic violence situation. And
is this right when the article comes out, or after you read it and then you're like, I'm worth more?
The day before.
Wow.
The day before. I moved back to my mother's house, which I hadn't done. And I wake up the next day, and it's all type of people just screaming all over my Facebook page. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then I look, and I'm like, Forbes named me the next Steve Jobs. And I was like, I just went through the house screaming. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be rich. Oh my God. It was just crazy. It was absolutely insane.
What did your mom say?
Everybody was super happy.
Wow.
Everybody just couldn't believe it, was super happy, just over the moon, ecstatic. And it was a very special moment. And so from there, a lot of people don't realize, I didn't even have the product out when Forbes named me the next Steve Jobs. That happened May 3rd, 2017. from there, I was able to leverage the publicity that I got from being named the next Steve Jobs to then be able to get funding for my company. I raised my first $200,000, and then I put that into actually being able to build the app. We did 200,000 downloads in 10 days because I also couldn't afford the ads like that. So I reverse engineered Google Play and a few of the, not Google Play, Google Ads. Google Play. Anyway, I reverse engineered a few of the different advertising platforms. Yeah. And I created my own algorithm for advertising.
You personally did this, or you hired someone to do this?
No, I personally did this.
Wow.
I'm a statistician by trade. So I personally sat down and I specialize in advertising.
Okay.
And so I personally sat down and reverse engineered Google AdWords, YouTube, and Facebook, and a few other things. And I came up with my own algorithm. They were telling me that it was going to cost $3 a download. There were all type of experts telling me I would never get it under $3, and I got it to 24 cents per download.
That's why they call you the next Steve Jobs. You hear me?
Thank you. So then we did 200,000 downloads in 10 days. Apparently it was historic. We got a call from Google telling us they never seen anything like it. We became the #1 education app in 14 countries, top 5 in 40 countries, and we just completely blew up. And then from there, everything just went amazingly well, and we were able to get on Breakfast Club the next year, and we achieved a lot of money from that, and it was just success. And then I broke my back.
Well, I have a question, just rewinding back. How do you, in those environments, coming from struggle, not having money, domestic violence situation, how do you go from that and somehow seeing past the storm to, I'm going to still keep focused on the bigger dream and not just settle for, something easier and smaller?
Because my God promised me.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. I grew up as a deaconess. I believe it takes the faith of a mustard seed to be able to move mountains. And my great-grandmother had already told me that it was written. And I actually received a vision from God when I was 6 years old. So everything I do has never been about me. I never really even asked God for anything. I asked him to guide me as he would have me to go. So even if I want it really bad, I say, God, if it's not for me, don't give it to me. So I believe in me doing that and keeping true to his vision and his word and not ever making it about me. It has been able to guide me. I will say there has been periods. There's been 2 periods where I kind of was like, okay, what is this? The first one was when I didn't have electricity in January. And I actually went and got a job at Olive Garden for 2 weeks.
Wow.
For 2 weeks. And I kept telling everybody, I was like, this is just temporary. This is just temporary. But I was starving. Yeah. Literally starving. I had no food, eating out of food pantries. And then the food pantry food is expired, which is a whole nother problem I'll work on one day. So, for real, like they're serving expired food in food pantries right now. Like it's crazy. And if it wasn't, and God work in mysterious ways, because if it was not for me going through that period, I wouldn't have a deeper understanding of the people that I'm trying to help, So it was all for the benefit of people at the end of the day. But basically, I went through that period of having that job of being a bartender at Olive Garden. And there was a competition, once again, to get into this accelerator. And I ended up winning, and I won $25,000. I was like, told y'all, I'm out. It's been real. No need to send a check. I'll keep in touch. Deuces. Also, that year, 2016, you actually just reminded me of something. What do you call it? New Year's Eve, 2016, when that period happened. I sat down and I applied to every single possible competition and accelerator that existed in the world. And it ended up being about 70 of them. And I did not go to sleep until I applied to every single one of them. And I ended up getting into about 3 of them. And that's how I then got accepted into that competition. I had already applied for it New Year's Eve. And then I had to go through the steps once I got down to the final 10. So I got that 25,000. From there, I was able to get another 70,000 because remember I got 3 of them. So I accepted 2. Another one was 70,000. So at one time I got 100,000, and I was able to leverage that. So all of that really worked out in my favor. And then fast forwarding to January 2019, I have like all this money lined up, and everything's going extremely well. And I go out to celebrate. AT&T had just made me a celebrity ambassador, and they gave me like this glass plaque, and it had like Queen Latifah and Tony Blair and Anderson Cooper and like all of our signatures inscribed on it. It was a really big deal. And they put me on the board of like Dreaming Black with AT&T. So my team was like, come on, let's go celebrate, this, that, and the third. And I went out to celebrate, slipped on something on the floor, and broke my back. And
for real broke. I think I seen this on Facebook because I'm a angel
for
stalker.
Real broke my back.
I think I remember seeing that.
Yeah, like that for real happened in real life. And so
and look at you, you're walking good.
Yeah, I was paralyzed for 7 weeks. I was on bed rest for 3 months. I had to learn to re-walk again. Wow. I still go to physical therapy once a week right now. And it's been a very humbling experience. From there, I came out to LA, and I ended up getting 2 acquisition offers for my company for like $35 million. And then I decided.
So I'm like, that's a big deal. I don't even have vocals. Go on.
Yeah, the people yesterday seemed to think that was a big deal too.
That is a big deal, especially. And I hate to highlight that, but especially the fact that you're a Black female woman. That's a huge.
Yeah, that's what they said too. I didn't really see it as a big deal. So
wow.
I felt like it was chump change.
Well, I take it you turned it down.
I turned it down. Yeah. I've made billions for other companies. Yeah. Billions. Time and time and time again. So for me to accept $35 million for me personally is insulting. And so I decided to turn it down. And I went to see one of my mentors, who's the founder of Cisco, one of the founders of Cisco Gas. And his company is worth like $60 billion. And it takes like 2 hours just to drive on his property to get to his house. And so
that's real money.
You hear me?
That's real money.
That's why I got to set the stage.
That's not even rapper money,
okay?
Guys. That's real money.
Okay?
Yeah.
And an hour, the first hour is like kind of like flattish land, and it has like a lake and like all of this, and you stop and you see the lake. And then the next hour is pure uphill to the top of the mountain.
Wow.
Okay? So I get to the top of the mountain, and I say, hi, it's a pleasure to meet you. How much of this do you own?
That's a good first question.
And he says, as far as you can see. And I said, okay, that's what I thought. Let's go. And during that meeting, I asked him if he felt as though I should take $35 million. And he also felt like it was chump change. He said, I don't even start conversations unless it's 30 million or above. And he was like, Angel, it takes the same amount of time to make $1 million as it do to make 100 million, as it do to make $1 billion. And you've probably seen me post that on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And that moment changed my life. Wow. And when I came down off of the mountain, I asked myself, how can I make $1 billion? And I recently came up with a term the night of my engagement party, and that is circumstantial visions. I had to remove circumstantial visions from my life. I had to remove me thinking that I was a Black person, or that I was a female, or that I was from the hood, or that I wore braids, or that I didn't go to an Ivy League school, or all of these various different circumstantial things that occurred that, for the most part, we have been told, you can't do this. Yeah. You can't partner with a credit bureau. You can't create a credit card. You can't do these things. You can't disrupt the financial services industry. You can't become one of the first people to intern from America and China. All of these things are told that you can't do. And once I removed that from my mind and I said, okay, if I was an old white man with lots of money and the Vanderbilts were my parents, what would I go do? And with that, I said, I would go partner with the top credit bureau. So that's what I did.
Wow.
After that, what would I do? I'll go partner with the top credit card company. So that's what I did. Okay, now I'm going to go partner with all the other fintech companies. So that's what I did. Yeah, so if people get nothing out of me being here today, it's definitely to dream ridiculously and follow your visions. Do not be limited by what people tell you. People tell me all the time that they think I'm crazy for turning down. Oh, smart.
I'm a good host. We're a team.
Yes, girl. So people tell me all the time they think I'm crazy for turning down the 35 million. But you have to know what's best for you and what's best for your life and not live by vision other people try to put on you, but what you really have for yourself. So I want people to understand that. And don't worry about people underestimating you. You know, I call that the power of underestimation, and be a Trojan horse. When they decided to take down Troy and enter with the Trojan horse, they didn't announce themselves. They presented it as a gift. They pretended as though they had left and as though they were giving a gift to Troy. And they underestimated their opponent. They assumed that they, in fact, had left. And they welcomed the Trojan horse right on inside with the enemies inside of the horse. And so they waited until they were asleep. They didn't jump out and say, aha, gotcha, sucker. They waited until they were asleep. Mm-hmm. And then they proceeded to burn it down. And by the time the Trojans woke up, their castle was already burning down. And that's how you have to be in life. You can't let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. If you put too much of your cards on the table, then what type of poker face do you have at all? And you're just making it easy for the enemy to be able to attack you. So people, I find especially, you know, these days in the millennial age, are so busy bragging and boasting about what they got going on in their life. And instead of kind of keeping their cards a little bit closer to their chest and not worrying about the impression that other people are having on them. Now for my favorite part, catch up.
Why financial literacy?
Well, my whole family sold life insurance. And so being in the community I grew up in, as well as going around and hearing people's different stories, and my mother having to spend her Saturdays, I cannot believe I'm making goulash right now. Shout out to my grandmother. Shout out to my grandmother and my entire Moses family. I am sitting here making goulash. Wow, this is crazy. Financial literacy, because my whole family sells life insurance, and growing up in the neighborhood that I did and traveling around the country and hearing people's stories, it always boggled my mind. It always boggled my mind why people didn't know how to manage their money. And it occurred to me that people literally did not know how to manage their money. I didn't know that you had to pay your bills on time before. I literally didn't know that.
What?
I didn't, for real. I thought as long as you got your bills paid during the 30-day period that they counted. I didn't know that you actually needed to pay it on time on the 1st, as well as something I've now learned, it's even better if you pay it on the 22nd, because that really helps even more. And so these are just things that I didn't learn growing up. So with Credit Rich, you know, we round up users' spare change to pay their bills intelligently and help them optimize their credit score. And by simply helping them to pay their bills on time, that in itself helps to raise their credit score. And providing them with the financial literacy tools to then help them become even wealthier from it, which is why we named it Credit Rich, because I hate seeing people that just sit around with a 700 credit score and do absolutely nothing with it. You should be leveraging that to acquire higher and higher wealth. And so we're
like what would be an example? Like real estate?
Real estate would be an example. Taking a HELOC, which is a home equity loan. You could then take a HELOC out and maybe invest that into private equity. You could take money out of your 401k and invest that into private equity. You could be sharing the wealth with your friends and family. Let's say you have a 700 or 800 credit score. You could add your friends and family to your credit so that they then are able to receive some of that authorization and be able to increase their credit score in that way. But they don't have to actually get a card from you. So there's just a bunch of ways to be able to increase the wealth. And what's better than one person with an 800 credit score? Two. So
yes, yes.
So
especially if you're not giving them a card, you're just it's almost like you're giving them the power to be powerful on their own, and what they do with it is on them.
Exactly. And I think that it's really empowering to be able to teach people to fish for themselves, and even disabled people. You know, they might not be able to work, they might not be able to walk, but they still get that disabled paycheck. And they need to be able to manage it and know what to do with it and make more money from it and give money to their kids. And so History of the Black Dollar, it occurred to me when I was rereading Booker T. Washington's Up From Slavery, that he also wrote a book called Negroes in Business in 1907. And I realized that the economic history of our community was just conveniently neglected from our Black history pages. At the same time, we were having sort of the earlier insurrection with people kind of fighting back against Jewish people when 45 had first got into office. And I said to myself, why do people understand and sympathize with the Jewish community, but not the Black community? And it occurred to me. What? Because they read the Diary of Anne Frank. The Diary of Anne Frank is mandated across America.
Yeah.
Now tell me a book about a child slave or Jim Crow era, or even just a Black kid that's mandated across America. There isn't one. Oh, okay. Maybe that's why they don't understand our struggle.
Wow.
Maybe that's why they can empathize with something that happened 4 years in another country as opposed to something that happened for 400 years in our country, because they literally don't know.
Wow.
I was just in Tulsa for the anniversary of the Black Wall Street burning, and people that grew up there are unfamiliar with what happened with Tulsa.
Wow.
They have magically been able to take our history from the American history pages. And so it's my goal to have this book not only mandated as a Black history book, but as an American history book. And we're proud to be partnered with Forbes the Culture, as well as Greenwood Bank and Marcia Dyson, in an effort to be able to get this done. And we have I don't know if I can even talk about this, but I think I can just mention it.
Yeah, mention it, girl.
We have a docu-series that's coming out on it as well.
Where can people catch it?
I can't say none of that yet.
That's a teaser.
I can't say none of that yet.
Oh, that's a teaser.
Yeah.
I remember when you published the History of the Black Dollar, I was on Facebook when you had walked into your bank and you had posted that, you know, there was, I forgot, 30, 40 grand in your bank account, and you thought it was some kind of bank mistake.
Yes.
What did that feel like when you found out, no, that was actually your book selling and that was Amazon depositing money in your account?
That was absolutely insane. You know, that's the shout out to Charlemagne, Power of the Breakfast Club.
Oh, okay.
And that came as a result of me going on Breakfast Club. I didn't think nothing of it. You know, I was just excited to be on there with Charlemagne because I think he's so real. And then I, like you said, I went to the bank and there was an extra $30,000 in it.
And what was your financial situation then going into the bank? Were you just closing a lot of deals at the time, or was that like, oh snap?
I think I maybe had, let's see, this is 2018. So I maybe had like 20,000 in the bank at that time. Not even that. I'm not even certain. It wasn't a lot. Yeah. It wasn't a lot. It was somewhere between 10 and 20,000, I think, in that period. because I had started making a little bit of money off of speaking engagements and stuff
Okay.
like that. So it was somewhere around there. So it was definitely noticeable.
Yeah, of course.
That it was this,
Like-
you know, additional $30,000 in there. And it was so crazy that I thought it was an error. So
Yeah.
I went to the bank teller to tell her, and she was like, "Oh no, this was deposited." And I was like, "From who, girl?" And she was like, "Amazon." And I was like, "You lying." All of that. And I was like, all of that came from my books. I said, from books. And so it was like, and I was like, I'm gonna rock this till the wheels fall off.
Yeah.
And I have. And now this has turned into such a larger brand than I ever expected. We just partnered with a company called Answer Source.
Mm-hmm.
They're a major education technology company. And we partnered with them to turn the curriculum into what they're calling GEMs, granular education modules. So there are these 10-minute interactive sessions that walk you through the book and help you relive the experience of the history.
What?
Yes. And that is available on historyoftheblackdollar.com.
History of the Black. You heard that. I 100% want to experience
Yes.
that.
So we're offering wholesale rates for schools and corporations. And this is the future. This is our goal. This is my personal goal, to make sure that this curriculum and these courses get into the schools across the country.
Wow. I love that you're using your power, your platform, your drive, your education, and your whole upbringing to better our community. Not just the Black community, but financial literacy as a whole. Just the overall community of America benefits from this.
Absolutely. And like I said on Breakfast Club, it's financial agriculture. It's definitely I'm focused on the Black community, but we have to be able to come together. And just like when you are dealing with normal agriculture, you can't keep plotting the same crop over and over, or that crop will die up. You have to be able to mix it so that you have the balance of the nutrients in order to be able to have the best fruits of your labor. So the same can be told from an economic perspective, and all of us coming together. And the more they understand our economic history, the more that they will understand our economic future.
So now, let's try some goulash.
Let's dive in,
close out with some
girl.
goulash.
Let me know you want some more ketchup or hot sauce.
I'm going to rate her goulash. Here we go. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. Thank you for another episode of Eating While Broke.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming
I've
out.
loved being here.
And you made enough for the whole crew, so I'm
Yes,
sure everyone's going to be happy.
Everybody can eat, and I know you're going to the moon, girl, so
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you so much for taking your time and coming on.
Yes.